Okay, we're moving on to the final step in the process. This is my least favorite part of doing any project, mainly because it's already done and this is one of those necessary steps you have to take to protect the paint, but it's not really fun because you've already created your masterpiece. A few notes about the wax. Annie Sloan's is the only one that I found that I like. I only tried this in Joann Fabrics, and I did not like Joann Fabrics brand at all. It's very runny, and it bubbles up when you put it on, and it's a sticky mess after when you're trying to buff it. I just didn't care for it. This is much easier to work with. So anytime you do a project, when you're sealing it with the wax, you always want to start and finish with the clear wax. This is Annie Sloan's. This is the clear. She also sells this dark wax, and this is used more for making a piece look more rustic and weathered. It gives it a dirty look for that, shabby chic kind of finish. I love it, but you always have to finish with the clear, so this just adds more work. So although I love the look of it, sometimes it's not worth that extra step. So. And then Annie Sloan just came out with a brand new one. This is the black wax, which I used on the vanity. So when I finished the vanity, I put a coat of the clear, then I put this, buffed it out, and then put this back on it. So when you're doing this, if you're using the dark or the black wax, you want to start with this. And I found that when you the instructions that I was reading in the beginning when I first started doing this told me to let the first coat of wax cure for a day or two before you put a second coat on. It leaves more of a protective seal. And for the most part I follow that instruction. However, when I'm doing a dark wax in there to give it more of an antique look, I have found that doing it when the clear wax is freshly put on and still a little bit wet makes the dark and the black a little bit easier to control, because sometimes you can get too much or too little on. The clear wax actually, if you put too much of the dark wax on, you can always go back while it's still wet and put a little bit of clear on. It acts as an eraser, so you can always take it off when it's still wet. So I've just found it a little bit easier to control how much you're putting on and off when you're putting it on a fresh coat of the clear. So that's it. I have two different wax brushes. These are the Home Decor wax brushes that are sold by the supplier that sells the Annie Sloan paint. I like them because they're a very stiff bristle, so they're easy to get in all the nooks and crannies. This is not the same brush that I use for painting, so this is the paintbrush I use. This is the brush that puts on a very smooth finish. It's firm but not too firm. It just leaves a really nice finish. The wax brushes are stiffer and smaller, so they're easier to get into all the corners. You want a separate one for the clear and the dark, so that you're not getting the dark in the clear wax. You don't want to cross-contaminate your clear wax. So I have two separate brushes, one for the dark, one for the clear. So also you want to keep a rag on hand. I use old t-shirts, seem to be the best option for this. You want a lint-free cloth for buffing the wax once you apply it, because if you don't use the lint-free, if you use just a regular cloth like a wash rag, it will leave lint on your piece. So you want to make sure you're using a good lint-free cloth. So I'm going to show you really quick how to apply this. So I'm going to put a layer of the clear coat wax over the entire piece first, and then I'll go back right away with the, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this piece yet. I'm going to play with it on the back before I decide. I don't know if I want to use the dark wax or the black wax yet, so I'm going to look on the back side and play with it a little bit before I decide, and then I'll come back and let you know what I've done. I'm going to grab this and come up close so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm just dabbing this into the wax. You don't need a whole lot. I usually will brush off the excess so that you just have a little bit on there. And you're just going to brush it on, making sure you're covering all the, and you'll see after you put it on, it leaves kind of a little bit of a smooth sheen on it. And I'm just going to put 2 coats of the clear wax on the top. I don't need the dark wax because putting it over black, it's redundant. You really don't need to. So putting it on the face where I have the cocoa will add just a little bit of highlights in certain areas. You don't have to coat the whole thing when you're using the dark. You just want to put it in certain highlighted areas. So I'm just going to put a layer on this one side and buff it out so you can see, and then I'll put it on time lapse. Alright, I think I got it all. And they say it takes a few days for this to fully cure, so they say not to put anything on the surface for a few days or it may leave marks. And then you're going to take your old t-shirt and you're just going to do this, rub it. You want to use quite a bit of pressure actually to kind of, you're trying to buff it out. Put a little bit of sweat in it. Use some muscles. Make sure you're getting all of the excess off so that you don't have glops of wax left anywhere. And you'll feel, when you're done buffing it out, you'll feel how smooth it is. You'll know when you're done because you can tell the difference. When you first start buffing it out, it's going to feel a little bit sticky. And as you smooth it out, buff it, it's going to get shinier and less sticky. You don't need a lot. You don't want to use too much, or it's going to be hard to get rid of that stickiness. And that's it. So now you've applied one coat. It'll require another coat of wax to make sure it's sealed good. And that's it. I'm going to finish this on time lapse, and then I'll show you how to put the dark on. Wanted to show you, so I started playing on the back side and I didn't like the black wax with this finish, so I did the dark wax instead, and I wanted to show you the difference so you could see what it does. So the dark wax on the left, I'm sorry, on the right, I've already done so that you can see. And it just, you can kind of see how it gives a little bit of, puts a little bit of a highlight or whatever in all the grooves. So it doesn't add much. It just adds a little bit of extra oomph to it. So I'm going to do the dark wax throughout. I'm going to show you real quick how I'm doing it. So you just need a tiny bit on the thing. Just dab it real lightly because you don't want this to go on heavy. And you're just going to push it into all the grooves. You're going to work in small sections so that it doesn't dry too heavy. I just wanted a real light accent. I didn't want it to be real heavy. To get a heavier look with the dark wax, I could have roughed up the wood and paint with by distressing it with a little bit of sandpaper on the edges, and the dark wax then will tend to stick to that raw wood through the paint a little bit easier, so you get more of a heavier distressed look with the dark wax. I just wanted it to be kind of light, so I did not do that step. So do that, and then for this you can either use I'm going to show you both ways so you can see it doesn't really make a difference. You can either use your same old t-shirt to wipe off the excess, and you can see it takes most of it away and just leaves a real faint highlight in the grooves. I don't know what else to call it, so I'm calling it highlight, but that's probably not the right word to use. But and again, the lighting down here is not good, so it's hard to see, but so see how it just adds a little bit of extra in there. And then you can take your brush that has already gotten most of it off and just lightly go over the other parts just to kind of blend it all in and give it more of that dirty look. So the alternative is I use this steel wool. It's the extra fine 000 grade. Just take, and you can, after you apply the dark wax, you can just go over it real lightly with the steel wool, and it gets most of that off. I do not use this with the clear wax. I only use this with the dark just to get some of that extra dark off if I want it lighter. So that's it. You can see the difference. It's not, again, it's not a real big stark difference. It just adds a little bit of extra. See how you can see the grooves a little bit better up here than you can down here? It just helps you see all the details. That's it. Alright, I'm going to put it on time lapse so you can watch me do the rest.